This is Kevin Pruitt with another interview in Rising Tide Startups, and my guest today is Marley Hilton. Marley, thanks for joining me this morning.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really honored and excited to be here and talk with you.
Well, it's good just to take a couple of minutes on our pre-chat just to kind of maybe lay the groundwork because this conversation is going to be a little bit different today, and I am really excited about hearing the story of Unbound RVA. So, Marley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, currently I am the small business manager at UnBound RVA. My work in small business kind of started during college, where I interned for this consulting group in Richmond while I was in school. Um, and they were just starting out. They were doing kind of like cultural intelligence trainings where they're going to like offices, organizations, um, and other nonprofits to kind of talk about, issues of diversity. And it was kind of at the height of like a lot of the tensions happening in our country. So it
Uh-huh.
was just like super cool um, to work for something that was just starting out.
Right.
And so I found that I really liked the business aspect of it, the behind the scenes, the like building a company culture. How do you run like staff meetings? How do you build a booking process? How do you do all those like nitty gritty um, things? And so I did that, and I did that remotely actually while I was in school. I went to William and Mary, and that
Okay.
organization was based in Richmond. Um, and so once I graduated, I studied sociology and just didn't know what I was going to do after that. And so I just freelanced, and I kind of took all the skills that I had worked with this consulting agency and kind of branded myself as like an operations person,
Sure.
doing kind of really odd jobs here and there, but striving. I love like, just there's no cap on what you can do as opposed to in a traditional, I feel like in a traditional, 9 to 5, you pretty much can just kind of come in same day and kind of do, you know, same old, but I love
Sure.
like just
The
everything's
variety.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's different every day. And you can see the direct impact of your effort. And so, along my way, I found Unbound and ended up taking a great role to work with some amazing entrepreneurs through my role as a small business manager.
Well, listeners, she kind of glossed over some very important information. I mean, she said I went to William and Mary, which is probably one of the finest state universities in the
Uh,
country, and
thank
it has a very high bar of entry, one that your podcast host could certainly never meet. So, Marley, we are duly impressed that it's a great university and
Yeah.
I'm sure prepared you well. But so give us a give us like the elevator pitch for Unbound RVA. Where you and I are getting on the elevator. We're going up 6 floors. You got 1 minute.
Yeah. So Unbound RVA is a nonprofit based out of Richmond, Virginia.
Virginia, huh?
Um, that's kind of the RVA part. That's
Right.
the kind of short and condensed way to say Richmond, Virginia. And we help low income individuals enter a path towards entrepreneurship. And so, what that looks like is that we help um, individuals just become business owners and start businesses with them. And that kind of starts off with a 18 months program.
Mm-hmm.
So that runs every year. And they do 6 months of workshops where they're meeting twice a week, 2 hours each. It's like a college course.
Sure.
And super intense. They're learning about their personal brand. They're going through ideation where they're
Mm-hmm.
testing their business ideas. They're doing surveys, focus groups, um, going through a lot of that. And Capital One actually is one of our big partners.
Mm-hmm.
We had about 150 to 200 of them come into our offices to just hear the pitches and the ideas of our business owners and give feedback and um, help them refine their idea. And they do business modeling as well, where they learn kind of like the MBA portion.
Right.
How do you write a business plan? How do you um, go through your finances? How do you have professionalism, in business? And um, we take in 20 every year
Okay.
traditionally. And at the end of the workshop portion, we select five. So it's a competitive process where
Wow.
we're narrowing down, to five individuals.
And they
And
followed. So after how the
yeah,
first session is 6 months.
the
So
workshop.
everybody's in all 20 are in 6 months, and then the only five are in for the next year after that.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So how many
Exactly.
do you think apply for those 20 slots?
In past years, about 50 or
Mm-hmm.
so. We're ideally hoping to expand that. Our organization, we like to say we're a startup in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We started about 4 years ago, 2014. And so kind of every year as we get, more people hear about us and learn about us, that goes up significantly. Like this year, we even had all year we've been in calls from people. When is your program starting? And we have a list of about like 50 people that we're just waiting to even hear to apply. And so, they go through that first 6 months. And this year, we normally eliminate it at the different sections of the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we tried something different where we kind of did self-selection. So if you completed everything and you wanted to go through the next level, we allowed you to. And from that, that was an interesting, shift in our model. And we saw that, some people kind of said, entrepreneurship's not for me.
Yep.
This is really difficult. I might not have the time or the life realities to balance this right now. And at the end, we ended up with, I think, 13 people, where traditionally we would have had a little less than that. And from there, we chose 6. Which
wow. That's 50%. I mean, that's, people that are starting their businesses, if you end up a year from now with 50% still in the business, I mean, that's a pretty high bar. So tell me, based on your experience of working with, the candidates in the program, and once they got launched, I mean, you've done it, you've kind of seen a cycle for like 4 years. What would you say would be 1 or 2 of the major pain points or obstacles that these candidates are going to face as they're trying to launch their business?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually say that it's the biggest one is not even business related. It's probably stability.
Just life cycles. Yeah,
and just particularly because we work with low income individuals and people in poverty, that we use the national threshold. And because of that, there are a lot of barriers that people overcome. And as we know, entrepreneurship is not a stable, path to enter into.
Yep.
I think originally when we first started in 2014, our hypothesis was anyone, no matter their background, can become a business owner and entrepreneur. And we've had to challenge that past few years and say we acknowledge that there has to be like certain thresholds, access to transportation, stable housing, a stable income where, like a job that you have money incoming so that when you're working on building your business, you're not extremely stressed. Childcare, all these levels. And what's really cool, this year we worked with the Office of Community Wealth Building in Richmond, and they do kind of a stability assessment. So that's been really cool to be able to partner with them. And sometimes, unfortunately, we have to say to people, even though you might have a great idea or you might really want this right now, there are other things that you have to focus on in order to, do well in entrepreneurship and building a business. And so let me
cut in real quick here. So how do you, so other than just looking at the thresholds that people have to meet in certain areas of life, are there also ways that you can help increase their stability? I mean, how do you, are there just 1 or 2 little things that Unbound RVA does that kind of overcome some of these barriers, whether it's childcare, transportation, funding, life skills, whatever?
Yeah. Well, so to start off, and I probably should have kind of framed everything in this, is we like to call ourselves co-founders in their businesses. We don't take any equity, but we definitely believe that's like the position and describes our relationship better than maybe an incubator or an accelerator might. And so with that in mind, we definitely want to and do go to bat for entrepreneurs and really, whenever they're going through something, whether that be a life crisis. Recently, with all the rain here, another entrepreneur, his car, a tree collapsed on his car. Another dealing with, housing or someone passing away and dealing with inheritance. Like there's always stuff going on that we're definitely involved in. But we definitely see that's a balance between us becoming a charity organization and us being there for the business side. And so what we found is that we just have partner organizations. We have other nonprofits in the area who we have just great relationships with, who, when our entrepreneur is in crisis, we could say, hey, you need housing right now.
Yep.
Here's Better Housing Coalition,
Yep.
and that has really been something that we're trying to formalize
Right.
in a more consistent way.
Right.
So that we're not only reaching out to them when we need something, but we have those relationships kind of curated and
Sure.
really strong.
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely one of our commitments as a co-founder.
So stability or instability might be one of the most common pain points. What's another pain point that you see frequently?
I would say business related, probably access to technology or technology skills, we would say, particularly if you've come from schools that maybe weren't the best, or you didn't have access to, everyone didn't have computers, growing up. That a lot of our entrepreneurs definitely struggle with entering things maybe in their QuickBooks,
right,
and utilizing that as their main tool. Doing a lot of the tracking things manually. A lot of times, there's lots of writing and paper, and we're trying to transition a lot of entrepreneurs to start using laptops more. It's definitely something we've taught and they learn through our workshops. But as you know, when you're in business and you have customers, clients, you have things going in your business, you're trying to, stay afloat in that first few years.
Yep.
If you're not 100% comfortable with something, or something's really difficult, you're just going to revert to what you know.
Or avoid it.
Exactly.
That's right. I don't like taxes, so I'm just not going to pay them.
Yeah. I mean, we hope no one does that.
Right.
But yeah, you know that you're going to revert to what's comfortable. And so that's been definitely like the biggest business challenge, is kind of integrating technology. We have really great partners who've given us Chromebooks to use during our workshops, so that everyone is kind of getting used to, kind of virtualizing their life, when their life might be very cash based, might be very like written down. And so, it's just a very different shift to make.
Though, I mean, I love the two that you brought up, because they certainly, it's an additional barrier. I mean, entrepreneurship is extremely difficult under the best of circumstances, but now that you add, life instability, you add technological deficiencies, or whatever, however you want to just frame them, or inaccessibility, I mean, it just exacerbates the difficulties of entrepreneurship. And I love the way you framed, Unbound. We're kind of co-founding, with them. So I'm gonna shift a little bit here. I say we always reserve the right to kind of chase a rabbit here, but and I wanted let's keep it concise, because I want to really dive into who Marley Hilton is just right after that. But give us a real quick snapshot. You don't have to use a name, but maybe just an example of someone that you've seen go through the program that has just blown you away.
Yeah, we had.
And I know it's difficult to put you in this position, because all the other candidates are going to say, "Why did you mention me?" So.
Yeah, definitely hard. I'm kind of just going off of who I just met with. We have weekly meetings, and so one of our entrepreneurs, we meet on Mondays, which is literally like just the best way to start my week. I was like super happy. He formerly had been incarcerated. And he heard about our program he was in, I think the jail he was in, I think, was like a white collar jail. But anyway, he met another man who had been a businessman for like 30 years, and who, while he was in jail, they kind of formulated a business plan together, and kind of got him thinking about, when I come out and change my life, what can I be doing next? And so he found out about Unbound once he came out, and he started a lawn care business with us. And he just really gets it. He gets like the business aspect of it. He understands like customer service. He's just one of those people like you. I would buy anything that he sold.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what he does for a living. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He is an entrepreneur.
Just very friendly, very people person. And it just blows me away. He recently was in an accident and had to go through physical therapy, which like you can't, if he's doing a physical or manual labor job, that's really tough.
Yeah.
And then he actually dealt with cancer as well
Hmm.
in this, like in the following months after that. And just kind of to see his resiliency, he just
Mm-hmm.
kind of just bounced back, kind of kept his eyes on the prize, and is really committed to growing his business and building his team, and just to see someone come in every day, always a smile on his face. You will never, ever see him, down or complaining. And to see someone go through like the barriers after barriers after barriers and to still,
Come
be
through on the other
positive.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I would be in that scenario. So it's, yeah,
Hey,
just
he
very,
sounds like he might be a great guest later on in the fall for
yeah. I'll connect you.
yeah, insert shameless plug here for podcast. So yeah. So let's transition here and take a little deeper dive and let's just really get inside the head of Marley Hilton here. And so
Yeah.
give us somebody that is online that really
Mhm.
or they don't necessarily have to be online, just somebody that just really inspires you and tell me why.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick. They're kind of a duo. They own a business
Hmm.
together. Kathleen Shannon and Emily Thompson of Being Boss.
Oh yeah.
They own a company called Being Boss
Hmm.
that has a podcast and also a website with resources for growing a business. And they were kind of like the friends in my head, definitely, as I was starting freelancing, figuring out what I wanted to do. I didn't even know I was kind of interested in business until just their podcast is definitely, or their materials are definitely like encouraging
Hmm.
and kind of about growing the best you, whether that's like in business or in life. And
Right.
so I kind of got attracted to their life stuff and then started listening to a lot of their business things as well. And yeah, I found that I love that they're able to balance, being women, being really feminine, and then also, they're growing a business and being like really amazing at that as well. And just to see that embodied, that
Yeah.
you can do that without sacrificing your values. They're not really clean cut,
Hmm.
or traditional in any frame or any sense of the word. So I love seeing that and being able to strive towards something like that.
So it's called Being. Is that the name of the podcast as well? Called Being
Hmm.
Boss. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
We'll make sure that that's in the show notes. So, what about a life quote that inspires you?
yeah. So I'm a recovering perfectionist. So um, a quote that I like have to repeat, or I guess a mantra that I definitely have to repeat to myself, is you don't have to be perfect to be effective.
Hmm.
And I just tell myself we can get caught just in the nitty gritty of trying to get every T crossed and
Hmm.
every I dotted, and instead of saying like I'm just going to do this, and the larger goal can be accomplished without me doing it completely, flawlessly. And
Right.
so, just giving myself that space to be um, vulnerable and do something without focusing on how well I'm doing it.
This this whole idea of kind of the perfection idea, the really developing the product to a certain level, service, whatever. I mean, it always reminds me, and I've probably mentioned it maybe, a third of the time in the podcast, is that
Yeah.
quote by Reid Hoffman, who created LinkedIn.
Okay.
He said, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you waited too long. And I
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
what a great thought of this kind of this minimum viable product, this lean startup, mentality that says, you
Yeah.
introduce it, you get feedback, you test it, and then you adapt, and it's that whole idea. But that certainly would play that's completely contrarian to somebody that has that's perfectionist tendencies. So,
Yeah, and it
to
could
come
it
over
could cause
that,
you to inaction, like you don't do anything because
right?
you're too busy like in your head. And I'm totally
Yeah.
like a planner. I need everything to be step by step and to know what the outcome is going to be.
Hmm.
Which serves me in some ways, but then hinders me in
Yeah.
others,
But
So
absolutely, I mean, what a support though for somebody trying to start a business to have you going alongside them that is thinking through at this level of detail, But
yeah.
and you will have to fight against the kind of the paralysis of analysis that they
Hmm.
how they
Yeah.
phrase that. So if you could go back and you've seen people kind of go through the cycle. I mean, what's one piece of advice that you would give everyone that's coming through your program that you wish that other entrepreneurs you've seen wish they would have known when they started, or even maybe you would have known when you started, in the consulting side of things? What's one piece of advice you think would really help somebody getting started in their business?
Yeah, I think kind of just going off what we said, kind of finding like a really great balance between this like planning and just doing it and like iterating, as you do. I think we're in this interesting balance as an organization. I think our entrepreneurs are also in that. Like we try to prepare them as much as possible during our workshops, during the first year of launch. And sometimes there's some things that they'll just never learn unless, they're
Right.
doing it and they're
Sure.
in action.
Like
And
like children.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like this tension of being comfortable, like with not knowing, but still moving, regardless of what, that looks like. Because that can be very uncomfortable for lots of people. But that's business ownership, right?
Hey, that's business, right? Now let me clarify. I was not making an association between these candidates starting and children. I'm saying that children have those same tendencies, that you have to let them sometimes experience things to really learn. But
I got you.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think our listeners would really like to hear, or you want to share with us? And then, just tell us where we can find you online, where we can find Unbound RVA.
Yeah. I think we just really want to be the like spearheaders of Main Street businesses, and I think entrepreneurship is such a sexy word right now.
Yeah.
Everybody really hopping onto it. Companies are really trying to promote, that culture. But we definitely feel like what gets lost in that are the Main Street businesses. If you're not a tech startup, or if you're not, super scalable,
Sure,
then you kind of get lost in the mix. And we definitely love our Main Street businesses and support those, because that's our economy, like that's the majority of
that is the foundation. That's right.
Exactly. And so we just want to really be, those that like rock in Richmond that is doing that and supporting that. And you can find out more about our program. If you want to recommend someone to go through our program, you can find more at just UnboundRVA.org. So I'm sure that'll be in the show notes.
Yes.
We love it.
So the whole idea, I mean, it is a not-for-profit, but it has a kind of a for-profit mentality. I mean, I really love that. I mean, I think one of the videos I was watching before we went live, just on YouTube, that was on the Unbound RVA channel, was maybe one or two of the founders was talking about, we're not a charity. We may be a nonprofit, but we're not a charity. And I love the distinction, because it has this idea that this is going to work. We're just not here to receive donations. We're here to pour in the community and be co-founders. And Marley, I just want to thank you again for your time this morning, and we'd love to have you on again, and others from Unbound RVA. And if you have candidates, like I said, if you have candidates that you think are a good fit for our podcast, our listeners would love to hear the stories, and we can certainly make that happen. But I just want to really just thank you for your work and your hard work and dedication, and thank Unbound RVA for all that they do to kind of lay the groundwork and foundation for the city that I live in and I love. And I am just grateful for you coming on and just helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Marley, thanks again.
Thank you. I'm honored.